glancing through the questions, we never seem to ask questions concerning our daily life. And there have been a lot of theoretical, ideological questions that really have no meaning at all. One wonders why one doesn't ask questions about one's own life, depression, anxiety, a sense of deep loneliness, and so on. Aren't we really concerned with our daily life, or is it just we live in a make-believe world and try to find answers to some romantic, sentimental, idealistic, or religious beliefs? I wonder why, if one asks, if I may. Why don't we ask such questions directly, simply about oneself? We all want to end war. At least some people do. And pacem in terris, that is, peace on earth in Latin, is not possible apparently in this world. In spite of demonstrations, in spite of all the preaching of the priests and religious books and so on, we can never have peace in this world apparently. And when we never ask if one can live peacefully in our daily life without any violence, without all the innumerable multiplying problems, live a clear, simple, strong life. Apparently that's not possible. And we don't ask such questions. May I raise a question? Why do you come? Please, I really mean it. Why are we all here? When the speaker is in India and talks to, between 5,000 to 8,000 people at every meeting, they come there, most of them understand English, and most of them come to be in the presence of a religious person, at least they're quote, a religious person. They don't quite understand what the speaker is talking about. I'm sure they don't. But yet they must come to be, it's the tradition, it's the fashion, it is the reputation, the image, and all that nonsense. I was going to use a stronger word. And perhaps you come here out of curiosity, or spend a nice morning under the trees among the dappled light, or take a sun bath and listen to the poor chap And so you go on that way. All this doesn't actually deeply, profoundly change us. What makes human beings change? This is really a very serious question. Why do we behave as we do behave? Is it possible that suffering, pain, anxiety, a sense of desperate depression out of which one finds oneself almost impossible to get out of, and the terrible ambitions and the competition and all that kind of thing that's going on, can we change all that? Each one. And you will inevitably ask, does it really matter? If I change, if one changes, will it in any way affect the whole human endeavor and their mischief and their superstitions and violence? And one thinks that's a wrong question to put. That is, you will change only if it affects the rest of the world. And if it doesn't, it doesn't matter very much how one lives. One wonders if you ever considered how one man can change the whole human consciousness, human beings. One man. As a bad example of a neurotic and insane person like Hitler, who has done such tremendous harm to the world, he has changed or affected the rest of the world, their consciousness, their behavior. And you might also say, has the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, has he in any way affected the world? Or the Christians believe in Savior, the Jesus and all that. Have they really changed the world? Changed human minds, human behavior, end their suffering? Or have the priests throughout the world prevented this change? You understand my question? One has no direct teachings of the Buddha or that of Jesus. His teachings apparently were interpreted, or say, after 60 years. So there is no direct teachings. And perhaps that has prevented human beings from acting rightly. So one wonders all along the long journey of one's life, why profoundly human beings don't change their ways of life. Is more suffering necessary? Is more violence necessary? More experts and so on? Or we haven't got the energy, the drive, the passion, the intensity to change the pattern of one's deep behaviors. Please do ask these questions of yourself. And here there are many questions given. Questions imply problem. And problems ought to be solved, not in the resolution of one problem. Dozen other problems arise. The ending of a problem, of any problem. And apparently, we don't seem to be able to do that, either politically, economically, socially, and so on, or religiously. It's a perpetual reorganization. When that reorganization doesn't function properly, reorganize it. Keep on reorganizing every organization. I don't know if I've not noticed this. And this is called progress. This is called bringing about order in the world. Can one put aside all organizations, spiritual especially, if one can use that word which has been so spoiled, not belong to anything at all, not be caught in any box, in any system, and work, look, observe, perceive one's own behavior, change. And why doesn't one do all this? Why does one depend on others? Please do ask these questions more seriously, if one may request you. There are moments of awareness in which there is great clarity and fear, division, and the experience or absence. But the moments are brief. What is necessary to allow a sustained clarity, intensity, and the wholeness of being? There are moments of awareness in which there is great clarity and fear, division, and the experiences are absent. But the moments are brief. What is necessary to allow a sustained clarity, intensity, and wholeness of being? Whom are you asking this question? It's a apparently serious question. It looks serious. Whom are you asking? And you want a reply from somebody. The somebody is the speaker here for the moment. If the speaker doesn't satisfy the answer, you trot off to somebody else. And if that somebody else isn't good enough, you go off to somebody else. You keep this going. And that means, doesn't it, we depend on others to tell us what to do, what to think, how to find clarity, sanity, a wholeness of life. Always, apparently, we depend on somebody. We never look into this question and ask ourselves and see if we can, for ourselves, totally independent of others. Find out if it is possible to be absolutely unconfused, to be absolutely clear, not momentarily, not occasionally when you have nothing else to do, but is it possible? Not the continuity of clarity. You understand? Well, suppose one is clear for a moment, and that clarity for a second banishes away fear, experience, and all that. Then that memory of that clarity is not the fact of clarity, right? I wonder if you see this. Suppose I'm walking in the woods, not in California, here, too strong, the sun. Suppose one is walking among the woods and listen to the birds and to the spotted lights and the beauty of the foliage, and for a moment there is absolute clarity of. And that clarity has left an imprint on the brain. Said, oh, how clear it was. Then one wants that clarity to continue. Don't we? Like pleasure, you want it to continue. The continuity is the movement of memory, right? Which is more, I must go into all right. It involves time, doesn't it? Anything that continues must have time, implication of time. And time will not allow clarity. It is the freedom from time that's clarity. Let's go into this again, if we may. Say, for example, one wants security, psychologically. And one, for a few seconds or few days, one has this feeling of absolutely being safe, protected, solidly secure. then that disappears after a few days. But the memory of that feeling remains. And we want to continue that which has happened 2 days ago. Right? This is what we're all caught in. That is, the duration of an experience which has finished. And the memory of it, we want. The memory wants a continuity of that thing which has happened. Right? So if we could look at this question, time, by the watch, by the sunset and sunrise, time as day and night, time of year, and so on. That is, there is time. And thought is also time. Right? We're following this. Time is a movement of thought from the past to the present and the future, which is a movement of time. This movement has its own continuity. Right? Are we together following this? And the brain, which has evolved through time, says continuity is essential. Because you understand, for it to continue, it is essential. Physically, biologically, it is necessary. But psychologically, it wants also to continue. So, the brain becomes confused when there is no continuity. I follow you on this. Right? Are we together somewhat in this? And one questions whether there is psychological continuity at all. You understand my question? We are questioning it, I'm not stating. Is there psychological continuity at all? That is, a moment of clarity which banishes, puts aside all fear, all problems and all the travail of life, it happens in a moment. And the brain says, it must continue. Because it only thinks in terms of time, a continuity. You understand? Biologically, it is necessary to continue day after day, right? Same house, same food, same clothes, same roof over the head. Psychologically also, we want, in relationship, security to continue, right? Are you following? Is there in relationship security at all? Which is a duration of long period of time. When there is the demand for that, there is conflict. I wonder if you understand this. Oh no. Relationship, as it's very important, it's a tremendously important thing in life, relationship. One cannot possibly exist in this world without relationship. Whether you are a monk, a sannyasi, a wanderer, you are always related to the past or to a person or to a concept of the future. It isn't just merely physical relationship. As a relationship is very seriously important in life, there are moments in which relationship has great depth, silence, and a sense of tremendous well-being. Right? Don't you know this? The speaker hasn't to go through all this, but he will go through this. And that those moments of deep sense of fullness, wholeness, is registered in the is recorded in the brain, and the function of the brain is to record and keep it going. And so the memory begins to play an important part. So one questions whether there is security at all in relationship. You understand my question? We want it. We think it is absolutely necessary, but is there? Please ask yourself. Security means permanency. And is there anything in life permanent? Death is always there, but let's leave death alone for the moment. Is there anything permanent in life? We want to have something permanent. Apparently, religious people say God is permanent. That's a marvelous invention, but has very little meaning. So we are seeking in relationship security and permanency. That very concept, please listen to this for a minute, that very concept of demanding security and permanency is translated as attachment. Right? So there is a deep attachment to another. It may be for a month, for a week, or 50 years. And during this state of attachment, there is all the conflict of jealousy, suspicion, fear, gain and loss. You know all this, don't you? So the demand in relationship to have a sense of permanent continuity in which there is security leads to attachment and all the complexity of attachment. If one sees that, perceives the fact of that, you understand? Perceiving it, as you perceive the tree, and you don't, unless you're blind, you don't go against it, knock yourself. So if you see this fact that the demand for in relationship permanency and security, which inevitably leads to a great deal of conflict and attachment, fear and so on, then that very perception burns away the feeling, the demand for security. You ever, is this clear, this question? That the moment when we think in terms of time, a sense of continuity, then intensity, clarity, and the feeling of wholeness disappears. Yeah, I wonder if you can capture all this. You have listened to this. Is it all nonsense? So what the devil are you talking about? Or is it sanity, reason, logical? And if I may most respectfully ask, if you see this very clearly, in fact, that we do demand in our life, in our daily living, psychologically, a sense of continuity, a sense of security, it must inevitably bring conflict. Right? Do we see this, perceive this fact? And we're saying if you perceive the truth of this, that very perception burns away the demand for security and permanency. Therefore, then what is our relationship with each other? Do you understand? You understand my question? Suppose the speaker or you have not this sense of security and permanency. That doesn't mean anything. Suppose. Then what is relationship? You understand? What is my wife and my husband? Or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it is. You please answer. Think it out. Let's work it out. What is one's relationship with another, intimate or otherwise? Is there just what, a gap? Or when there is no permanency, demand for permanency and security, with all its complexity, is it possible a new awakening, a new sense of what is love? Understand my question? Permanency and attachment, and with all its pain and pleasure and anxiety and fear, is not love. And if the absence of that entirely, deeply, profoundly, the other is like a flower that's blooming. Right? Is this possible? Is this possible when you hear all this? Is it possible in your daily life? Love is not thought, desire, sensation. Love is totally a different quality. And that is totally absent when the other, security and all the rest of that, is the demand of every human being. What is judgment? How is one to determine the line dividing opinion and the perception of fact? What is judgment? How is one to determine the line dividing opinion and the perception of fact? It's a good question. What is fact and what is opinion? And where is the dividing line between the two? Why do we have opinions? The meaning of that word, opinion, means judgment, evaluation, preconceived concepts, the whole assertive, dogmatic opinions that each one has. Why do we carry so many opinions? Please inquire into this. Why do we have opinions at all? We have opinions about everything. And apparently that's so strong. And we think that is freedom, to have 1,000 opinions about everything. That gives you a sense of freedom. At least you think one is free. Independence. It's my opinion, I'm right. So we have 1,000 opinions. And what are facts? What is fact? Fact is that which has happened, right? That which has happened. An incident or an accident is a fact which took place yesterday. And fact is also what is happening now, right? What is happening now, you and I are sitting here having a conversation, a dialogue, a question and answer and so on. That's a fact. What is not a fact is what may happen tomorrow, right? I want to go together in this. What may happen when you leave this place and go on to court, something like that. So, fact is that which has happened, that which is happening. And fact is not what will happen. That's clear. What will happen is decided what is happening now. Right? I want to see this. The future is in the present. Right? The future is what you are now is the future, right? Modified, but basically what you are now. So the future is in the present, right? Order, right? And the past is also in the present, right? So the present contains all time. Please don't play with this. As a theory, it is meaningless. It becomes a slogan if you repeat that, a cliche, and loses its meaning. But if you see that the past has a continuity in the present, right? And the future is the past modified the present, right? The past modified through the present. So the present, the now, contains all time, right? And if you don't change now, you will be exactly the same tomorrow, slightly modified. So the future is in the present. I wonder. This is really quite important to understand, because what is action? I mustn't go into that, that's too hard. So, why do human beings cling to opinions and not facts? You can conclude from a fact an opinion, right? A fact can be made into an opinion, but the opinion is not the fact. I may have an accident in a car, and you come along, see it, and you have umpteen opinions about it. But the fact is that I have an accident. So why do we have opinions at all about government, about religion, about this, about that, about literature, about poems? You follow? Why? Is it kind of game? Is it a kind of wastage of energy? Is it another form of chattering, which is all a waste of time, waste of energy? Whereas if you stick to facts, which is what has happened, what is happening, that's only facts. I'm looking at the tree, that's a fact. Why do I have to have an opinion about that? If I'm a lumber merchant, thank God I'm not, and I say that's a valuable tree, let's cut it down, that's a different matter. But to have constant opinions about everything seems to one such a stupid waste of energy and time, and so useless. And judgment. The question is, what is judgment? A judge passes a sentence on somebody, criminal or some innocent man. There was a judge once whom the speaker happened to know. He was high up in the law and became a good judge. And one morning, after many years of judgment, he said, "What am I judging? What is truth? I'm passing judgment about everything according to precedent and so on. What is truth? Unless I find that out, judgment has no meaning." So, it's a custom in India in those days, about 58 years ago, he called his family. He said, I'm going to withdraw from the world, go off into the forest, into some distant village, meditate and find out. We're telling you the facts of it, not opinions about it. After 20 years or 40 years, I've forgotten the exact time, somebody brought him to listen to one of the talks that Kay was giving. And he came to see me, the speaker, afterwards, and he said, you know what I've been doing all these 40 years? I started out to find truth, meditate, did all kinds of things. And I see now that I've been mesmerizing myself. I've been living an illusion. Right? You understand all this? For an old man to acknowledge such statement and to say that's a fact, that needs a great deal of perception. So what is judgment? What is justice? Is there justice in the world? Please ask this question of yourself. Is there justice in the world? You're born in a good family, money, education, prosperity, success. And the other lives in a small ghetto, no future except poverty, constant struggle, right? Where is justice in that? The Indians have a very good explanation, the Hindus, which is karma. You understand? Don't, please, that word karma means to act, not all these things given to it. To act rightly at the now. Because what is, if you act rightly now, the future is right. So, or if you act mischievously now, you pay for it next day or next life. Now, is there justice in the world? A crook can employ a clever lawyer and get away with it. This is happening every day. You are clever, I am not. You are beautiful, I am not. You are extraordinarily alive, I am not. This is facts. So where is there justice? There's so-called legal justice, which is totally different from actual justice. Justice can only be found where there's freedom and compassion. Without that freedom and compassion, which in its movement is intelligence, there is justice. Otherwise, there is no justice in the world. This is, please, not an opinion, not a theory. But when you have this feeling of great compassion, which is quite a deep question, then there is, in that compassion, there is justice. There are many people who have considerable difficulty with the fact of homosexuality. Teachers, for centuries have avoided this inquiry. Could you please, even briefly, put some light on this question? I have traveled 2,000 miles to ask this question. There are many people who have considerable difficulties with the fact of homosexuality. Teachers for centuries have avoided this question. I have traveled. Oh, could you please even briefly answer this question? I have traveled 2,000 miles to ask this question. Sorry, quite right. I've traveled 2,000 years. This has been a question for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It isn't something new. How would you? We are not taking sides in this matter. We don't condemn it or approve it or disapprove it. These are facts, right? As heterosexuality, it's a fact. Homosexuality exists in the world, in different parts of the world, very common. Other parts of the world is practically unknown. So how do you answer this question? What is the question? Why do we make it into such an enormous problem? Apparently, we don't make heterosexuality a problem at all. But we make this into a problem. Why? It's a fact. So should we inquire into this question, into heterosexuality and homosexuality differently? Not condemn one or the other, or approve one and deny the other, but inquire why sexuality, both, become such colossally important, right? Why? You answer this question. On television, magazines, every bestseller has this element in it, in detail. Every day. You're following on? No, I don't have to tell you all this. Every day this is emphasized. Sexuality, I'm not talking about homo or heterosexuality, general sexuality. Why have human beings given such great importance to this? And if it's not important, you feel there's something wrong with you. That you're neurotic, that you have to fulfill, that you dozens and dozens of explanations by the psychologists, by the experts, by the sexualists. Why? Is it pleasure? Remembrance in the pictures of sexuality? You understand? It's something. Why has man given throughout the ages such extraordinary importance to this? If you are deprived of it, you feel something terrible has happened. And you can voluntarily say, I won't have any, I'll become a celibate and join a monastery or not join a monastery or remain a celibate with all the problems of celibacy, right? So what is the question? Why has this thing has been given such a place in life? Part of life, right? Part of walking, seeing, running, laughing, tears. It's part of life. But why this one thing has taken importance? And is being encouraged very carefully, right? By the entertainment industry. Please go into all this. And the psychologists have also encouraged this. Fulfill. When some mothers feel something wrong with her daughter or son who doesn't have a boy or girl from me after the age of 12, 13. This is all what's happening in the world, especially in this country. In the traditional countries like India and other countries, there's still, they say, please wait. Don't indulge. Wait till you're 20, 22, or whatever it is. So seeing all this, what does one learn from all this? Learn, not moral, not morality, not celibacy, and so on. But what does one learn from all this? Come on, sirs. Religions throughout the world, the ancient, no, I won't call it the very ancient, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christianity, have always said, if you want to follow God, be a celibate. Why? And they take vows of celibacy, join monasteries, so become a monk, wandering monk as they do in India, and go through tortures with this. Right? They've taken a vow, they must stick to it. I don't know why they take a vow first, but they must, once you have taken a vow, you have to follow that which you have accepted. But psychologically, inwardly, the glands, everything's are functioning, and you have a terrible time. The speaker has talked to many, many of them. They go through hell. Religion has done that. You know all this, don't you? And one asks, Why has man said to himself, to achieve the most sublime, you must be a celibate? You understand? That is, you must torture yourself, go through agonies, and then you will be nearer God. Seems so childish, the whole thing. Sorry. I met many sannyasis in India, monks. I won't go to the details of it. They have tortured themselves in every way. Because the popular opinion is that to reach God, to reach the highest, you must live a life of absolute abstinence. Which means human beings have never understood what is austerity. May we go into that? You're not bored with all this? I don't mind if you're bored. Probably you don't want to go into all this. It may disturb you very much. And please don't be disturbed, because it's this, we are dealing with facts. What is austerity? You know, the root meaning of that word, as we explained the other day, to be austere means to have, in Greek, a dry mouth. Not from drinks and all that, dry mouth, which is to be harsh, to be sharp, to be dry. And so gradually the human being has this idea that he must be austere, and has made himself into ashes. You understand? When you are forcing yourself day after day, month after month, year after year, driving yourself, you end up nothing as dry human being. And if you indulge also in the other direction, you have the same problem. So, can one live a life without conflict? You understand? Neither extremes can one, which imply conflict. The sensory demands and the suppression of sensory demands. Can one live without a single battle, effort, struggle between the two? You understand my question? That requires a great deal of inquiry into the whole problem of desire, will, wish, and the biological urges. Do you understand? Do you want to go on with this? There's a very good question at the end, I just saw it. How is one to live on this earth? Please listen to it. How is one to live on this earth without harm or destruction to its beauty, without bringing suffering and death to others? How is one to live on this earth without harm or destruction to its beauty, to the beauty of the earth, without bringing suffering and death to others? But we must finish our question which we were talking previously. What time is it, sir?
It's 20 to 1.
Could we bear another quarter an hour? Are you working the same as the speaker is working, or you just listening? Is your brain as active, working, inquiring, deducting, intends to find out, to way of living something totally different? Tant pis. We were saying, to live a life without conflict requires an investigation into the whole question of desire. Which is a very, very complex problem. Should we really want to go into all that? No, I'm not asking out of encouragement. I'm just asking. It's a very serious thing what we are undertaking. It's no good just merely listening and repeating. That has no meaning at all. But seeing what facts are in this world, what is actually taking place in the world, not only in this country, but in every country, in so-called every culture. And conflict in man is increasing more and more and more, not less and less. Man means woman and man, so please don't get excited about it. Why don't I talk about women? Unless one understands very deeply the movement of desire, not the description of it, not the explanation of it, but to inquire why desire becomes so extraordinarily important. Desire to become successful, desire to have money, desire for sex, for excitement, for amusement. You follow? The tremendous urge and the speed of it, and the demand for its fulfillment. Again, religions have said you must suppress desire, which means another battle, another conflict, another torture. You know, religion has played havoc with human beings. And they're still doing it. Not only in the Christian world, but in the whole world, in the Islamic world. Look what they're doing in Iran and Iraq and, oh, don't talk about all that. So, what is desire? Please understand, we are not trying to suppress it or encourage it, but it's a fact. The fact is that we are driven by desire. Unthwarted is pain, right? Sense of not being able to fulfill. So at any cost, at any price, we want the fulfillment of desire. You may say desire for God, desire for the understanding of, all that. It's still desire. Gosh, must I go into all this? When you look at a tree and the beauty of the tree, the light upon the leaf, and there are mountains beyond it, the valleys, the shades, and the dappled light, and see that enormous beauty of the earth. That's a sensation, right? I won't go into the question of is beauty sensation. I'm not going into that. That's another problem. No, not a problem. That's quite another thing. Very interesting. If you go into is beauty sensation. When you see all that, the earth and its beauty, it's a sensation, right? Seeing with the optical eyes, with the eyes, and the seeing, the very seeing arouses the sensations, right? Seeing a beautiful woman or a man arouses various kinds of sensations. Then what? That sensation is correct, isn't it? Normal, healthy, natural. Unless one is paralyzed, blind, and deaf, dumb. That is when one is sensitive. One is acutely aware of all this. And you see this. There is perception of all this. Then what takes place? You're looking at those hills. The seeing of those hills arouses some sensations. Then what's the next step to that? Inquire, please. Look at it. Does then thought come in and say, what beautiful thing that is? Right? Thought then creates an image, right, out of that sensation. Right? I'm not saying anything that's not factual. It's not supposition or fictitious. Sensation, contact sensation, then thought makes an image of that sensation. Right? You're following? When thought makes an image out of that sensation, then desire is born. Sensation is not desire. Sensation is sensation. But when thought comes and says, yes, what a lovely thing that is. What a lovely dress that is. Nice shirt, being a man, nice shirt. Or a woman says, nice dress. Goes inside, touches it, feels it, puts it on, and then thought says that, how beautiful I look. That's a nice shirt on me. Then desire is born. You understand this? This is a fact. It's not something theoretical. This is a fact. Now the question is, if we go into it much deeper, sensation, seeing a beautiful painting, beautifully framed and beautifully lit, marvelous. That's a sensation. Then you see, then the thought says, I wish I had that in my room. Then at that, when the thought assumes the authority over sensation, desire is born. Now the question is, can sensation and thought be kept apart? Go into this, not through will, through compulsion, through effort and all that. We're asking this a very serious and very simple question. Sensation is natural. Thought is also somewhat natural. With its image. That's what happens. Now, can there be a gap, an interval, a hiatus, so that sensation and thought are separate? You understand? See what is implied in it. It requires tremendous attention. Great watchfulness, seeing, sensation. I've seen some, the speaker has seen some most beautiful things in the world. Beautiful cars, beautiful people. Not, please, I'm not using the common sense, beautiful people. I'm not really very, well, never mind. So, it's natural to look at this world, its enormous beauty, the destruction of what human beings are doing to the earth. And seen some of the most beautiful gardens in the world. Houses, palaces, and so on. Lived in them and all that. And never to be identified with any of it. Oh, you don't know all this. Never ask, I wish I had it. You understand, that requires great perception, watchfulness, and clarity. And all that implies a sense of great inward learning, which is discipline. Learning is discipline, not conformity. You understand? The last question, how is one to live on this earth without harm or destruction to its beauty, without bringing suffering and death to others? How is one to live on this earth without harm or destruction to its beauty, without bringing suffering and death to others? Have you ever asked this question? Actually. Not theoretically, but actually put that question and face it. Don't run away from it, not explain it's necessary and all the rest, but look at it, confront it. Have you ever asked such a question? Not en masse. Make a demonstration against some politicians who wants to destroy a national park or this or that. To ask such a question, it means you're burning with it. It's something tremendously real, not just a fanciful question past the time of day. To live on this earth with its extraordinary beauty, and not to destroy it, and to end sorrow, and not kill another, not kill another human being, not kill a living human thing. There are those people in India, a certain sect. Their transportation is walk. They take no trains, no aeroplanes, no carriages, nothing but walk. And they put on a mask, not to kill an insect by breathing. You understand? There's a whole group of them. That group came to see the speaker, and they walked 800 miles from April to January, and never taking any transportation except walking. And they won't kill. And there are those who kill for sport, kill for amusement, kill for profit. The whole meat industry, right? Destroy the earth to dump poisonous gas, all that what's happening in this country. Pollute the air, the waters, and pollute each other. This is what we are doing to the earth and to ourselves. And the question asks, can we live on this earth with its great beauty, not bring suffering to others or death? It's a very, very serious question, this. To live a life without causing suffering to others or causing death to others, that means not killing a human being. not killing any animal for sport, for your food. You understand all this? This is the question. There were a certain class of people in India at a certain time. They never ate meat. They think killing was wrong. They were called at that time Brahmins. And the Western civilization has never inquired into whether killing is right, whether killing any living thing is justified. You'd say? The Western world has destroyed whole races of people, right? This country has destroyed the Indians of this country, wiped them out because they wanted land and all that sort of thing. So can we live on this earth without killing, without war? I can answer it, but what value has it to you? Because you are killing. I'm not advocating vegetarianism. Some author wrote some time ago, which a cutting was sent to me. He wrote saying, vegetarianism is spreading like some foul disease in this country. Even if you kill a cabbage, right? So where do you draw the line? Right? Do we make a problem of it? You understand my question? If you're against war, as certain human beings, including myself, against war, killing other human beings under whatever reason, then you cannot post a letter, right? The stamp you buy, the food you get, all that part of it goes to defense, armament. If you buy petrol and gas in this country, part of that goes, right? Your taxes, part of it goes to, and so on, so on. So what will you do? If you don't pay taxes, you're fined or sent to jail. If you don't buy stamp, you can't write letters. You can't travel, right? You following all this? It amuses you? So you drive yourself into a corner. And living in a corner seems rather futile. So what will you do? If you say, I won't travel, I won't write letter, all this helps to maintain army and navy and armaments, national, blah. We follow the whole racket of it. Or would you approach it differently? Why do we kill? Religions, especially Christianity, has killed probably more people on earth. They have tortured people, called them heretics, burned them. You know the history of it. So on. Muslims have done it, the Islamic world has done it. Probably the Hindus and the Buddhists are the only people. Religion forbid. How can one live on this earth without killing another? And causing suffering for another. To go into this question very deeply, really, it's a very, very serious question. Is there that quality of love that answers this question? If you love another, if you love another human being, are you willing to kill that human being? Will you then kill anything? Except you need certain food, vegetables and so on, nuts and so on, milk. But apart from that, would you kill anything? Go into all these questions, sir, and live it, for God's sake, don't talk about it. What is dividing the world is ideals, the ideology of one group against another group. This eternal division, apparently everlasting division between man, woman, and so on. They have tried to bridge this through logic, through reason, through various institutions and foundations and organizations, and they have not succeeded in any way. This is a fact. Knowledge has not solved this problem either. Knowledge in the sense of accumulated experience and so on. And thought has not certainly solved this problem. So there is only one issue out of it. To discover or find out what is love. Love is not desire, love is not possession, love is not selfish, egocentric activity. Me first and you second. And apparently that love has no meaning to most people. They may write books about it, but it has no meaning. So if there's that quality, that perfume, that fire, that compassion, and compassion has its intelligence. That is the supreme intelligence. When there is that intelligence which is born of compassion and love, then all these problems will be solved simply, quietly. But we never pursue the question to the very end. We may pursue it intellectually, verbally, but to do it with your heart, with your mind, with your passion behind it. Then the earth will remain beautiful. And then there is a great sense of beauty in oneself.